In this Rhino Grasshopper tutorial, I want to model this Cathedral of Brasilia in Rhino and Grasshopper. And as you can see, it's a monumental project. So if I go to the Rhino Grasshopper, you can see that I have modeled this in Grasshopper, and we can change that by changing the radius. And also, I have defined sections for this. So let me just show you how I can change the number of these sections, how we can control the radius, which I will explain in this tutorial. You can see that I can change that in the bottom of the section, the center of the section, and also at the end of the section. And we can also change the radius and the height. So remember, we can control this form and produce different results. And at the end, I will show you how to produce the surfaces between them. So be sure to watch the video till the end, because we have lots of tips and tricks which we will cover. And before we start this tutorial, I will also show you how you can model this in Rhino. So what I want to do is to show you how you can use the record history and then move the sections. As you can see, I can move the section and change the results. So I will show you also how you can control that in Rhino, and then we'll jump into a Grasshopper. First, if we take a look at the project, you can see that we have, let me just show you with this picture, that's fine. What I want to do is to draw a circle at the bottom, at the center, and at the top, right? There's a trick you can do. Assume that I just draw a circle here, 0, that means the center of the circle, and just draw a circle here, okay? Assume that we want to draw 16 sections for that. So assume that we want to divide this into 16 sections. I'm going to divide, and okay, number of segments 16, and then we can just draw a line from 0 to here and from 0 to here, and then we can just go to select points and delete. So this line or this section is the place we want to use to draw that section. What I want to do is to also select the circle, hit split, and split it with these lines, and then just find a point from the middle of this to one of these lines. Okay, so if I select that and type mirror, we can connect it to here, and you can see that we can have that section. Okay, so that is the section we have, and we can connect these lines to make the section. Let's just make a copy by holding the Alt key and bringing this up 3 times. That's really easy. And now we can go forward on the process of making this Cathedral of Brasilia in Rhino Grasshopper. So I'm going to use the record history and type in loft and select these sections. And this is really easy. Now, if I change these circles, for example, this one, and use the Shift key, hold the Shift key to scale it by X and Y, and you can see how easy it is to scale this, bring it up, and make this happen, okay? So remember, you can always use this technique. The next technique I'm going to use before we go for the record history, so you can see that this is confined by these sections, right? I'm going to again hit on the record history and use the array polar, this one, the center 16 times. And now, because we hit the record history, we can control everything. This was just a quick overview in Rhino. Just as I can move this up, I can scale this with the Shift key. I can select this one. For example, I want to select this circle and this section, scale this. And you can see that this section is confined with these lines. And if we want to scale it, we can scale this easily. And if we want to just make it fit, we can say scale, use the center, hit this point, and reach the lines, these lines we are snapping, and you can see it's going to fit, okay? And make this parametric, as you can see here. And you can also download this example if you want to take a look at it and learn from it, but be sure to watch the video till the end, because we have lots of tricks here. This is a good example of how you can use Grasshopper to make a parametric architecture model. Okay, let's get started by going to the circles section, curve, and use this circle part. And let me just put the bifocals plugin so you can see this. Okay, and we can give 3 numbers to the radius. I'm going to use 12.5 because it's a bigger number than 10. It's going to give you a range of 0 to 100. Okay, I'm going to copy this, Control C, Control V 3 times, and use the Shift key to give that. Okay, Control Z, and then connect these lines. Okay, so we have 3 circles here. Now we have to give them height. Instead of moving them up, I'm going to go to the vector section. You can move them, but for now I'm going to go to the point and give that to the Z coordinate. Okay, so this point, and give that 3 number sliders to the Z coordinate with the Shift key, will make these circles in 3 different heights. Okay, so that is how you can control the height, and this is how you can control the radius. That's really easy and controllable with Grasshopper. Okay, now if I want to make curves like that, just for a quick trick you can use for those who are watching this video, I'm going to go to the curve section and go with divide curve. Okay, so if I divide these curves into 16, maybe count, and I want to connect them like that, if I connect a interpolation to the points, it's going to make those circles again, and that is because we have 3 groups of 16 points. Okay, so if you connect those 16 points back again, it's going to make those circles. So what you can do is to change the groups and say we want 16 groups and 3 data information, right? That's going to make it like 3 points. So it's going to be like this point, and this point, and you can connect it like that. And the command is really easy, flip matrix. Let's just give this here, and you can see by just turning off all of these things, you can also control a series of curves by changing this numbers and so on. Okay, the next step is to make a circle smaller than the base circle we had here. I'm going to use the offset, the base offset of Grasshopper, and because we want to put that inwards. The reason I'm doing this is because I want to connect them like a section. I'm going to explain that, but let me give this 3 number sliders for the first one, second one, and the third one. This is a complete data management section. I guess that if you think it's a little bit advanced, you have to go to our course and watch the complete data management videos. We have a complete section about that. But for now, let's just talk about this. Why am I scaling these inside? Because we want to connect this point. Assume that we have divided this into more points. We want to connect that into like this section, right? And then make that surface happen. So what I want to do here is to divide these circles again. So I'm going to go to the curve section and divide. And instead of 14 times, I'm going to give that to the count and make it 2 times. So expression 2 times the 14, we have these points. And now we want to get rid of this point, right? Because we need these points here. And then we have the points right here. That's okay. So if you don't know about this, we have talked about this in one of our tutorials. I will put it up here about dispatch, and the default pattern is true false. So it's going to be true false, true false. And if I connect a point to one of these lists, you can see that we have the list A, the true, and the false. That's exactly what we want, and we have these points. Okay, before we go forward, let me just connect a point to these points so you can understand that, and give more offset. So we can see what's happening. Okay, if we want to connect these points to these points, I can go to the curve and select a line and assume that I want to connect that. Okay, a little bit of data management here. I can't get in all of the details because it's a lot of experience and working with different examples to master the data management. Again, if you want, you can check out our course. But for now, what's happening here is that the first point is connected to the first point here. The second point is connected to the second, and the third one, which is 2, is connected also to a 2. And now we want to connect that to this section if we want to, okay? So this one has to come here. It's going to be 1, like that. That means shifting the data. That's a little cool tool you can use in Grasshopper, and that's shift list. And I'm going to shift these lists in the integer -1. That means 1 back. And see how amazing Grasshopper works when we just shift those points. They are connected. That's the way you can do. But what we need here is not these lines. I'm going to give you a trick here, and that is connecting a line from the points, from the shifts. That's the line we had here, okay? The reason I'm doing this is that because we want to take a part of this line and then connect it to this section. Why? Because we can control that. If we want, we can give the complete line and make that fit just exactly like the Rhino section, or we can scale that back and make it happen. So that's really easy. I'm going to use a scale these lines. The center is going to be the center of these lines, so I'm going to go to the curve and use the point on curve, which will just pick up the midpoint. And now we can just simply scale that from 0.1 maybe to 1. So we can make that big complete 1 or a small 1. Okay, that's the trick I wanted to use. And now we can just get the start and the end and connect that section. So we need that section. I'm going to go to the curve section and use the end points, which means the start and the end, and now we have this. Okay, this is a little bit tricky. We have this point, we have the start and the end, and now we want to just connect that. Let's just do this. The start and the end, and now we have it. So you can see how easy it is to control the section. Let's just turn everything off. This is completely amazing. Grasshopper is a completely amazing tool. It will give you the power to control everything here. And because we want to scale that into 3 different groups, that's going to scale all of these 3 groups, okay? Just as I explained, I'm going to give that 3 numbers. And I'm going to use the shift key. But let's check this out. This is going to go to the first, and then it's not going to control, it's going to go like this. The reason here is that these groups are like, let me just zoom in, these are 3 groups, but our factor is not in groups. So again, a little bit of trick, I'm going to graft that. So you can see that this is going to go to the first one, this is the second one, and this is the third one. This is the way you can make a neat algorithm. I could have just copied all of these places like crazy, a lot of copy and connecting these things, but this is the smallest way you can control all of those sections and finish this modeling. Okay, I know it's a little bit complicated, but this is going to work, okay? You can see that I can control the first one and make it 1 if you want to connect that, or make it like this. The center is going to connect, so it's going to be 1, and then it's going to make it a small. And the best thing is that we can also control the offset is here. So you can see that we can control the section. This is a little bit of a trick I have learned, and you can use it in your projects. So the next part is to connect these lines together because these are just not connected. So how can we get them connected? The problem here is if I go to the curve section and use the join curves and assume that I want to connect these with the shift key, and if I bake that, The problem here is that if I go to the groups, especially for the centers, it's not connecting. When you just give that a 1, because those lines just intersect, it's going to connect them all together. So another lesson for the data management here, we have to have groups of 3, not 42, because we want to connect 3 by 3. How can we do that? This is a little bit tricky. Let me show you how. Okay, and I'm going to connect a curve to these lines. These are the 3 lines we have. First, I'm going to flatten this because you can see that they are in 3 groups of 14. We don't need the groups now. We want to just make them one by one. So now they are in, let's just go see that, 42 lines together. Okay. Now, when you just put that group outside by flattening, we have to graph that. And that means put them into groups of 1. Again, we can't just flatten graphed at the same time, so I'm going to use the graphed component here and Control C, Control V. That's the technique. And now if I put those into one curve with the Shift key just to show you, for educational purposes, you can see that they are in groups of 3. So remember, you can just turn all of those groups back into no groups with flatten, then use the graph to put them into 1 by 1, and then when you put them together, it's going to be 3 by 3. That's the technique, and that's the way you can join those curves and get amazing results. That's how programming works in Grasshopper, and you can see that we have all of the sections. Now what we want to do is to just loft them together. So if we check out the data, you can see that they are in one group. Okay, so we have one group with one data, and if we just connect a loft to this, that's not going to do anything because we are just basically saying that, let me explain here. We're going to say 42 times loft. That means lofted 42 times 1 by 1, which means nothing. Okay, so again, the technique we want to use is to flatten all of these data and now make those groups into 3 by 3. So how can we do that? That's really important, especially that we have to know how the data is managed. So if I want to know the numbers of these groups, I'm going to go with the curve and use this polygon center. It's going to find the polygon center, center of vertex, edges, and area, which I'm going to use the center of vertex. And I'm going to connect a display point list to see the number of these groups. Okay, if I want to bake that, you can see it's like this: 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and till the end, and then up till the number we have 41. Okay, so you can see that it's like this, and then what we have to do is to put them into groups of 14, 14. Okay, so we have to bring back those groups we had here, 3 groups of 14. So I'm going to use the partition. This is a good example of using data management here, and I'm going to delete this. The number of the partitions here, okay, let's just put the numbers. 14, the 14 is here, we had that, and then you can see it's going back to 3 groups of 14, and now we want to swap that because we want groups of 3, so we're going to use the flip matrix. Now we have the groups of 3. That's it. So if I just connect the loft, you can see we are done. So this is the technique you can use. You can scale things here, scale the bottom, and scale the top. Then just change the radiuses. That's really easy. And change the heights, okay? Based on your project, you have to play with these numbers, okay? That's how you can make the lofting thing, and if I bake that, you can see it's just open at the start and at the end. So what we want to do is to connect that with a cap. I'm going to go to the surface and use a cap to make these solids. Okay, let's just change these numbers. So I'm going to make that. Another way you can make the solids is, let's just bake this. show you different results. This is the way you can see, but there's a problem here. You can see that they are intersecting. You can also use the sweep method. So let's just get back to these rails. In this tutorial, you're just learning all of these techniques you can use, okay? And now what we want to do is to use the sweep instead of loft. So remember, you can do that or use the sweep command. So I'm going to you can remember that you can go to the offset and put it like -x and put the sections outside. That's another technique you can use. You can put it outside or inside by just changing the -x. And now what we want to do is to use the sweep, another way of producing the surface. I'm going to use the sweep. The rail is here. We have 14 different rails in groups, and now we have also 14 groups with 3 sections. If I give that a section, so remember, you can use the loft, you can use the sweep. The sweep, it will give you smoother command, smoother results, and you can see that. That's really beautiful, and you can make that happen. Okay, you can also add different sections. The best thing about this algorithm is that you can also add circles. So if I just want to add a circle or add a section, I'm going to just add a number slider here. That means adding a height, add a number slider to the radius, which will control the radius, and add a number slider here to control the offset, which will control the offset, and add a number slider to this place, which is the scaling of those lines, right? And then you can just simply put a cap on it and bake the results. You can see it's going to make a complete solid of this. Okay, so this is the technique you can use to produce the results, and let's just delete those for the added data here. And you can see how you can control that. Also remember to change this number slider for the height and to make the best results, okay? And let's just bring the here to 1. It's going to just fit that at the center. That's it. That's the way you can do that. That was the tutorial of how you can do the Cathedral of Brasilia. If you want to make those surface, I have also made another algorithm. I will put it in the website, so remember, you can also download that from the website. Thanks for watching, and remember to subscribe to our channel for weekly tutorials, and see you next time.